time.
But in terms for college students, they're expected to read articles and scientific readings and then come up with paper. What are the tips you can offer, or what should the faculty, first of all, pay attention, and then how do you support?
Usually, if people have made it through high school to college, they have already developed coping strategies. Some of these include registering with it used to be the DRC, what's it now? Accessible Education Center, so that they are given extra time. I have some students in my class who get 1.5 or double time for exams. There are some students who use a typewriter because poor writing sometimes comes along with diagnosis of dyslexia. Okay. So they're allowed to use a computer for their exams. They prefer...
You mean better than writing by hand? Yeah. So the computer is actually...
Yeah. Oh, so computer is more friendly to students with dyslexia than having them write. They also prefer open book exams. It's very difficult for them to memorize facts over time. Wow. So, the memory is often affected. Remember, there's also a lot of anxiety that accompanies this condition because they've been told for years that they're poor at reading. They know that they're poor at reading. And ironically, what is required to promote learning is to be able to relax and to be confident and to allow your mind to absorb new information. That's exactly what's difficult for a student who is anxious because he or she knows that he or she can't read.
I see.
So what I have found that works for me is to do whatever you can to have the student relax. Compassion is huge in the world of teaching. I don't think we have enough of it. I think we're the culture encourages punitive behavior.
Rush.
Everything is rushed, and you dock students for late work. And
yes,
I love rigor. I think rigor is very important, but I think it has to be combined with understanding the student, with compassion for the student. We have student adults who are dealing with all kinds of real life issues, and I have found when you try to understand what the issue is and you help them, they do much better. So those are some of the things we can do with students who have dyslexia. A longer period of time for turning in the assignment. Sometimes I have actually done this much. I have given a midterm exam and noticed that a student who I know has dyslexia had a very, very poor score. Oh, very, very poor. The lowest score in the class.
How do you know the student had dyslexia?
Because she told me.
Oh, okay.
And because I could tell from the other assignments that she turned in. Now I know that student comes to every class, does all her homework, and tries very hard. I could just give her a very poor grade and she could end up getting a D or an F in the class. And no, that's not. I would never do that. So I called her. I said, come see me in my office. And I said, what happened? And she just broke down. She said, most of this stuff I know, but I get so anxious and worried that I forget it all. So I said to her,
anxiety.
Yeah, so I said to her, would you like to sit in my office and answer some of the questions? If you answer half of the questions and you do better, I'll give you a better grade. She did quite well.
I see.
So I had an option. That was my call, And I think that's what I mean by compassion. Rigor is essential. Rigor is important, but not cold, hard rigor that is divorced from the needs of students. Like I tell my teachers, you haven't taught until your students have learned. It's your responsibility to make sure they learn.
Yes.
They're in your class, they are teachable.
Yeah.
That's your job, teach them.
That's very profound, right?
Yeah, well, it's true.
So then when I'm learning from you, it's okay to refer them as dyslexia.
Students with dyslexia.
So it's okay, turn to.
Yeah, you just shouldn't say she is dyslexic, but she is a student with dyslexia. She's first a student, first a person, first a girl, first a woman, first a boy, first a man, first a mom or dad, then he or she happens to have dyslexia.
I see. Okay.
So students with dyslexia rather than dyslexic students.
I see. Okay, I see.
We don't want to define them by the condition.
By their condition.
Yeah.
But give them the
exactly.
challenge. Okay.
Right.
That's very profound. I appreciate this very much. Is there anything else you would share with the faculty who may, have students in their class and they didn't realize that?
Mm-hmm. Well, in order to realize that, you have to create a safe environment in your classroom such that students will open up and be honest with you.
I see.
You have to create a safe environment so that they would want to communicate with you and let you know what their struggles are. And then, if and when they do, you have a huge responsibility to respond in a manner that would help them grow and develop. Not that to punish them, but to help them to do whatever you can to help them grow and develop into the best student that they can be, which is why they're here.
So it takes a lot, the heart and the compassion.
Yeah, I think that's essential. And I think sometimes we put that on the sidelines because we're so busy. We have so much to do.
That's true.
And it takes time to investigate and to meet with students and to help them along. I had a student last week, I think, when you came to my office.
Right.
She was sitting out there when I came in on the ground, and she said, "Professor Rickford, can you help me with my homework?" Well, I assumed it was homework from my class. It wasn't.
It wasn't even your class.
It was homework from another course. And I said, "Well, have you gone to this professor?" She said, "Yes, 3 times, but I'm not getting any help from him." So I said, "Well, why is that?" "He doesn't like me." I said, "You can't say that. Students always think that. That's not true." She said, "Yes, it's true. If you..." Now, of course, perception is reality.
Yes.
So she said, "If you could help me, please." So I said, "Well, I have about 15 minutes. So I sat down with her, and I didn't tell her the answers. What I tried to do instead was to teach her the information that was required to answer the question.
The strategy, how to fish.
Even more than strategies, the actual information that the answering the question required in that particular discipline. I just happened to have known it because of my training, my graduate work. And she got on, she caught on. I mean, I saw her answer 3 or 4 questions correctly before she left. And she had, 12, so she has a lot more to do.
That's why she keeps coming back to you.
But I think that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think she...
it's the heart you've got.
Yeah, she didn't think that person heard her. She didn't think that person listened to her. Now, she's not an easy student. She has dyslexia. She has this severe dyslexia. And I don't know how much the professor knows. I don't know if she's told him that.
I see.
And I didn't ask. You don't want to invade their privacy too much. If she came and asked for help, I had a few minutes, I gave her some help. But that's precisely the kind of thing I'm talking about. And the irony of all this is that my formal training was not in teaching students with disabilities. It wasn't. I spent 22 years of my life in a special education department, and I think it was providential. I think I was meant to be here because although I was trained by Professor Robert Calfee at Stanford, who spent a lot of time working with students who were struggling readers. And so he developed strategies and techniques to help them that turned out to be perfect.
I see.
For students with all kinds of disabilities, including dyslexia.
All right.
So it was a fortuitous match.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you very much. So it is a reading skill that's actually will help every student. Yeah.
Yes, you can't read, you can't do anything.
That's true.
You know,
That's right.
upwards of 70% of incarcerated youth have a reading disability, are unable to read. So if you graduate from high school and you're not reading, you're probably going to end up in the criminal justice system. So the responsibility of teachers is enormous.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
this
you.
is very, very
Thank you
helpful.
for coming.
Yeah, thank you.